So it's January. We're getting close to the end of the month of January of 2024. And around this time, I probably would have went through weeks of some pretty low moods because of, the winter, daylight saving times and all that. Seasonal affective disorder is a really aggressive way of saying the lack of sun makes me a little sad. But I can honestly say, as someone who has tried to figure out, I won't just say struggled with depression. I've really been trying to figure out what causes it, and not just what causes it, but effective ways for me to combat it for quite a few years now. This has been the most consistent success that I've had. And I started keeping a tally of the amount of times that I was depressed really now in the past 3 months. I've been doing the same thing every single day for over 75 days for a morning routine. And it has virtually cured depression for me, at least in this season. I don't want to overpromise its benefits, but I don't want to understate them in any case. I have been depressed for a total of 3 days out of the last roughly 80 days. And that is saying something, considering that I used to have weeks of this. So the mental health component is one of the main benefits that I've seen from having a morning routine, but it has affected many other areas of my life as well. And I'm making this video because I believe it can do the same for you. I don't have anything to sell you. I don't have a newsletter to try to get you to hop on. I'm just sharing ideas that have made my life more understandable and worthwhile. So you should start a morning routine. You're not exactly sure how. Well, let me share at least some of the most important mindsets that have helped me get through this morning routine and to keep it consistent. First off, I would say avoid like the plague, avoid complicated and long tasks. I know it's the top of the year. You're really excited. You've got these big goals that you want to accomplish this year and start on for really your life goals. And the knee-jerk reaction after reading a book or seeing a video or seeing something on social media, you get really, really excited and you're like, I'm going all in. I'm going to give 110% today. And then wonder why it falls off. Well, because you didn't give yourself enough time to acclimate to these new habits, for them to really latch onto your life, and you got burnt out by it. There may be some friction points that you weren't aware of, some barriers mentally or physically or whatever it may be that have slowed you down to doing them. So I strongly suggest starting off extremely small and avoiding long and complicated tasks. I was reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Many of you have heard of it. And I love how he suggests that you should have a 2-minute rule. Like whatever task you're trying to do in the morning, it should not take you, or really any time of the day, any task that you want to start new. But I'm talking about the morning. It should not take longer than 2 minutes. And so you want that task, starting off at least, to be so easy that it doesn't take a lot of mental negotiation to do it. I'm going to meditate for 2 minutes. I can do 2 minutes. Yeah, of course I can do 2 minutes. But you may think the first day, I can do 10 minutes. I know I can do 10 or 15. You do it, you kind of make your way through it, but can you do it 20 days in a row? You haven't done it yet. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to meditate for 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes, that's it, and you knock it out, next thing. So start these tasks off extremely small, whether they be doing yoga in the morning, going to the gym. Don't try to attach too much to this routine. And not just the individual task, but don't make the morning routine overall too long, because you don't know how it's going to affect the rest of your day. And it just makes it easier for the brain to accept that if I get up early, my morning routine is only going to take about 20 to 30 minutes. I can easily do that if it takes that. So starting off your morning routine may simply be, I wake up in the morning and I make up my bed and I drink a glass of water. That's a routine. And then you start habit stacking, which means just adding something onto the habits that you already have, which makes the new habits easier because they have something else that they're triggered by, sort of like a domino effect. And this is also really good for things like fitness, because sometimes you can go to the gym and get really excited and you go really, really hard, you give 100%, and then you burn out. You can either get injured or your body is just too tired to do this every single day. So you need to give your body time to acclimate to this new type of workout that you're doing. And you may feel bad about, oh man, I really didn't even sweat. I only did like 5 minutes. But that 5 to 10 minutes every day is going to do much more for you than doing an hour every now and then, or doing an hour for 4 days in a row and then not doing it again for another 2 weeks. Set the bar extremely, even laughably low, and then slowly progress from there. My next point would be hunt for friction points. Be on the hunt for friction points. Friction points are little snags in the task or the routine that make you pause or stop altogether the routine or habits that you're trying to do. And you cannot underestimate just how small a friction point can be. And this ties into starting off small so that you may notice these friction points as they come up. Friction points can be how long it takes you to get to your gym. That drive time, if it's too long, that's creating more and more friction that makes you pause and think, man, I might not do it. Or for me, I want to make oatmeal every morning with fruits. But I noticed that even me reaching up in the cabinet, this sounds really bad. It sounds really lazy. But most of us have a lot of lazy points. If you don't have a morning routine at all, then you already feel lazy. So the workaround is to be pre-lazy. That's the trick, is to say, I know I'm going to be lazy about this. I know I want to take the path of least resistance. So let me do things that make that path of least resistance lead to a desirable goal. So, all right, I bought these clear canisters that I can put my oatmeal in right on top of my counter. So it looks pretty, it's on my countertop, but I don't have to reach up, find the oatmeal. I don't have to reach up and find like my raisins and walnuts that I put in it. They're all in these beautiful containers on the counter. I like to measure my oatmeal out. I do a half a cup of oatmeal, but then you have those measuring cups that are on the ring and they all kind of clink together. And I noticed that every morning I was looking specifically for the half cup every single time. And it's like, well, if that's the one you're going to use, I got this utensil sort of spinning rack that hangs up under my counter. So I put all my large utensils up there, but I also put out the half cup because that's what I use every single morning. So instead of me having to search through the half cup out of all the other measuring cups, just put that one out. And I'm just going to grab that, put it in the canister, put it in the bowl, boom, friction point gone. Another friction point with just the oatmeal was the effort that it took to make it. So I love old-fashioned oats that you can microwave or put on the stovetop, not the strictly microwavable kind. But my bowl that I was using was really small, and I like a half cup of oatmeal, and it would spill over too much at the end of it. So I would have to sit there and watch it. And then I was like, wait a minute, just go buy a bowl that's big enough that you don't have to sit there and watch it, and you just put the time in and set it and forget it. Be done with it. Go on to something else. So just be on the hunt for friction points that may be slowing you down, making you pause to think whether or not you actually want to do that thing. You want these things to be as easy as possible. If you want to be more of a reader or a writer, then the book that you're reading needs to be out. Don't go put it back on the bookshelf. Put it out and visible and obvious. Put the pen out, put the journal out. Set your environment up in such a way that you sort of just flow into these habits, and it doesn't take as much mental effort to do the things that you really want to do. And these points just kind of flow together really well. So my third point is seek understanding, not grace. Do not simply give yourself grace when you mess up, when you don't show up for the part of the morning routine, or your morning routine takes too long, you're dragging through it. Don't just tell yourself, no one's perfect. I'm just getting started. It's okay. I'll try it again tomorrow. That's cool, but you need to understand why it took so long. Understand why you didn't want to do it. Understand why it took so much mental effort. And that goes somewhat to the point of friction points, but also just other external factors that may have played a role in that. And this is where it's really, really helpful to have a daily planner / journal. I don't buy the pre-made ones. That's just not my thing, but I use the bullet journal method, and maybe I'll do a video about that as well. But in the meantime, you can just Google it yourself. And it's been really helpful, a flexible way of having a planner and a journal. And I'm also sort of keeping tabs on what I'm doing day by day. And so I'm able to have more understanding of myself. It's like a science experiment, right? I've had the same day and I've had very similar results. And then one particular day, I just started going through it really slow. Why is that? And for me, one time I noticed that I don't get on my phone in the morning until it's time to call my parents. That's part of my morning routine. I call my parents every single morning. But I leave my phone in my studio room. I don't leave it in my bedroom because I can do a whole video about why you should not sleep with your phone in your room. But I noticed that I was on my phone through my morning routine, so it took longer. I had to check my phone for something that was necessary, but then I didn't put it back. So now it's like, okay, once you do whatever you need to do, put it back in the room so you can focus on the morning routine. So I'm not just giving myself grace for not doing it. I need to understand why I did it the way that I did or didn't do it. And be okay with running this experiment. Your routine is not going to be the same. This is an organic system, not a mechanical one that cannot change. It is an organic system that you will add stuff to, take stuff away, things that may not serve you as well as you thought they would. This is not going to be a routine that you're going to have for the rest of your life. So it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to start. And as you're starting, being mindful and taking notes, whether mentally or physically on a piece of paper, as to what you're feeling about this routine, what effects it's having, when you showed up or when you didn't show up, and then you can make adjustments. Next thing I would say is the morning starts at night. The morning starts at night. This almost goes without saying, but you need to understand that if you want to have a good morning, you've got to have a good night. So I have somewhat of a very loose night routine right now. I'd like it to be a little more filled out, but for now it's very light. But part of that routine is putting my phone in another room because I understand in order to have a successful morning, I need to have a good night's rest. And I understand that for me, and if you're honest with yourself, what I'm saying about me may be true for you. If it don't apply, let it fly. But for me, I had to be honest and say my last couple of hours at night were generally not going to be as good as the first couple of hours I could have in the morning if I started my morning intentionally. My last couple of hours of the night were trash hours. I may have had a productive day, but those last couple of hours were just watching Netflix, being on my phone unintentionally. And that's cool every now and then, but as an everyday thing, it's like, what else could I be doing with those 2 hours? I can allocate that somewhere else. You may say you're not a morning person, but it may be because you're not a good night person. Well, I'm a night owl. That doesn't mean you're good at the night. It doesn't mean you're productive. It doesn't mean that it's most effective. It just means you like to be up late. And maybe you should reconsider that part of your identity. Also, the blue light that comes from those TVs and phones are messing up your circadian rhythm. It is not good for your sleep, not good at all. I'm not saying getting rid of your phone or your TV in your room is going to solve all your sleep problems, but it's definitely not helping you get rid of your sleep problems. You may think you need your phone because you can't go to sleep, but it's just making it harder for you to go to sleep. I used to have an issue falling asleep. I used to have issues waking up in the middle of the night and staying up for an hour or so. It was crazy. And then I was like, it's the phone. It's the phone. Now, when I do wake up in the middle of the night, I'm not up as long because I don't have the phone next to me. Also, when I first wake up in the morning, it's not the first thing I do. I get to wake up to myself and my thoughts, not to the world and all its thoughts. So when we have our phones out in the morning, we just sort of blur into the day, and there's never a real pausing moment to say, these are my thoughts, and this is how I feel, and this is how I want to respond. This is how I want to show up to the world. We just kind of blur into it with whatever else is going on in the world. And I don't like that. I don't like that for myself. And maybe you don't like it for yourself either. Get rid of the phone. My last point, I sort of hinted at already, and that is your identity is fluid. Have you heard the saying that no man can stand in a river twice? For the river is not the same, and neither is the man. A river may have a same location that you walk to see it, but it is not the exact same water that is there. That water is flowing and can be redirected at any given time. Oftentimes, the identity that we have when we say we're not a morning person, when we say we can't be a consistent person, we say that we're not journal people, we say we're not a very fit person or whatever, I don't do gyms, you're only reinforcing. So you may not have been a gym person for one period of your life, or you may not have been a journal person or whatever, Part of that is habits and part of that is narrative. What is identity other than actions and beliefs, habits and narratives? When you say, I'm this person, or I do this, I'm a mother, I'm a engineer, I'm a musician, that is just a short form way of saying, I play music all the time. I learn these things. I learned about music theory. I put my fingers on a guitar and I do these things quite often. It is just saying what you do. And identity is also just a set of beliefs. And really, beliefs are just narratives. There are stories that have beginning and ending, and you're included in there. They help make sense of seemingly unconnected points. And so we take all these unconnected points of our life and construct a narrative about it and say, that's who we are. But you can change that narrative. And I don't mean this in some sort of mystical, fluffy way. I mean this in a very literal sense. One of my favorite books of 2023 was the book called The Self-Delusion, the New Neuroscience of How We Invent and Reinvent Ourselves. And the book is both enlightening and also a bit frightening. It is a bit undoing. Our identities are extremely, extremely malleable and almost imaginary. Like, I won't get into it right now, but it is quite trippy. But don't go down the bad rabbit hole too much. It can be quite overwhelming, the idea of how our brains just sort of keep connecting narratives, whether those narratives are true or not. But in the end, I found the book hopeful because it's like, man, all the things that I say I am not, that's not what I do. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a consistent person. I'm very impulsive. I do this. I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be able to do this. Some of that is rooted in true physical limitations, but a lot of it, an alarming amount of it is due to narrative. And not just a narrative that we told ourselves once, but a narrative that we tell ourselves every single day and every single year. It is not simply changing your beliefs that are going to make you a different person, but changing your beliefs will change how you approach the task that you want to do that will make you a different person, and you can become a different person. I am someone who is experiencing this right now, and it is bittersweet because all the things that I said I would not be able to do in my life, whether it be fitness goals, relational goals, family, a lot of things that I just thought that I was not, were just narratives. And you can change those narratives. Your identity is fluid. So that's it. What questions do you have about my morning routine, or comments about how you've been doing your morning routine and what you found helpful? I'm pretty sure I've left out some good tips to have for starting up morning routines, and I would love to see them in the comment section because, yeah, I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be ever evolving, and it's easier to do that when you're connected to many other people who are also on the same path. So. Also, I'm realizing that I never quite explained what this was on my arm this entire video. I'm getting some tattoos removed, and these things can get really, really itchy. So it's just an ice pack. So, yeah.